Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Wenlin. I'm a yoga educator and yoga mentor, a private yoga instructor based in Turin, Italy, and I'm originally from Singapore. So today I'd like to share with you 3 tips on how you can practice yoga or any form of exercise safely at home. So right now, due to COVID, many of us may not be able to access, for example, sports facilities or yoga instruction or sports instruction so easily. For example, at the gym or with respect to public places, it may be a little bit tricky to be in close proximity with other people. So right now, what's becoming more and more popular is to practice virtually through live stream classes. So I myself, for example, have a few clients with whom I host either live stream group classes or live stream one-on-one private yoga sessions. I also do this in person at at my clients' homes as well. But yeah, now mainly virtual is one of the easiest ways to actually access many of these classes. So whether or not you practice live, which means that there's someone whom you're following exactly at the same time simultaneously, or for example, whether you actually have live feedback, or you're watching something that's pre-recorded, for example, on YouTube, or for example, some of the videos which I've uploaded on this Facebook page. There are a couple of tips that I would like to share with you so that you can make sure that you're practicing safely and avoid injury, and just to be careful, because many of the times if you're doing this at home without someone to actually guide you, you may run into certain problems, or you may not be so sure how some of the poses or some of the movements are being done. So today I'm sharing with you 3 tips on how you can actually enhance your yoga or movement practice at home through a virtual practice. Right, and the first tip here that I think is the most important actually is within Asia, where I'm from, many of us have the mentality that's no pain, no gain, right? You really look to push yourself to the limit. And if, for example, you're watching a sports video or some kind of aerobics, or, let's say a high intensity interval training kind of video, or maybe a yoga video and it's power yoga, and the instructor says to move through maybe say chaturanga and to do an arm balance, or for example to do 10 sets of burpees. But if, for example, that's not within your ability, right, and you push yourself beyond the limit and that you start to experience pain in your body, that would be a problem. So pain is a huge signal of vulnerability. And with respect to pain, instead of no pain, no gain, right, there's this mantra that I've adopted from what many of my teachers, and that's no pain, no pain. Right, so in whatever movement modality, whether it's yoga, sports, running, the goal should be to avoid pain, because pain signals that there is some part of your body that is undergoing a risk or potential vulnerable source of damage or trigger. Right, so let me elaborate a little bit more, because pain is a huge spectrum. And very often, if, for example, you're not a sports instructor, or if you're new to a certain sport or movement modality, you may not be so familiar with the types of pain. So firstly, under no pain, no pain, it is important to distinguish between pain and ache. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're doing crunches, or maybe, for example, you're doing lifts, right? Weightlifting using your arm. So when you contract a muscle, what happens is you're shortening the muscle, right? Contracting. Let's say there's a dumbbell here. So I'll grab a dumbbell so you can have a look. Okay. So let's say I have a dumbbell here, right? And I extend and I contract the muscle. What's happening is the thickest part of the muscle, the main body of the muscle, is shortening and contracting so that I can pull my forearm closer in towards where my shoulder is. Right, this is the movement, and we're looking to target here this muscle, which is the bicep. Right, so naturally, if, for example, this is the first time you're doing this movement, and you are pushing your body beyond what it is usually used to. Let's say you don't really do this movement or hold heavy things with your arm, and let's say you practice at home 20 lifts with the dumbbell, like this contractions. The next day, right, you might feel aching in your arm, and that's very normal because the body of the muscle is being exercised and it is undergoing fatigue as you do this. So over time, you're strengthening the muscle as you do this, but naturally, right after you've loaded the muscle, you will feel this ache. And this ache is okay. Ache is totally fine. And usually it is in the thickest part of the muscle. Right, so over here, right in the center, not in the insertion or the end of the muscle, which is close to where your bones are, like, or your joints are. It's right in the center of the muscle. So this is important. On the other hand, let's say you do a yoga pose or you do some form of movement and you feel a sharp, piercing or pinching pain close towards your joints. This could be in your back, in your hip, in your elbow, in your shoulder girdle, in your knee, for example, right? And if this is, especially if it's a sharp shooting pain, it's a sudden pain, then that is a huge signal that you did something that is going to put your body at risk. And you want to avoid at all costs sharp shooting pain, pinching pain, so on and so forth. Right? So how do you do that? Usually it's by moving slowly and with no rush. Because what happens is when you contract a muscle and when you move slowly, the risk of engaging the muscle or putting certain parts of your body at this risk or vulnerability is very much lower than if you moved very quickly in, for example, an aerobics class or in a high intensity interval training class, for example. So let's say you're going to do an aerobics class, right? Or you're going to do some form of training like CrossFit, in which you do repetitive movements like squats, or you do maybe say mountain climbers or something. Naturally, you will need it to be fast, right, for that to achieve the effect of getting your heart rate up. So how can you circumvent this? My advice would be, in order to achieve no pain, if you're not sure and you're just starting out with the exercise, start slow. Do the first few repetitions properly and slowly so that your body starts to remember and know the actual way it's supposed to be done. So just like, for example, if you're doing weights, right? You have to remember how it's like to extend fully and then contract and slowly release, right? Instead of just doing it rapidly with poor form. This is why many of the sports people, or for example, people who go to the gym, if you don't do the exercises with the right form, you put your body at risk of injury. So this is very, very important. In my own yoga classes, when I teach my students, with my clients one-on-one, this is what I emphasize. Very, very important. And for example, okay, then the next question would be, let's say you've come into a movement that causes you sharp shooting pain. What should you do? Slowly and gently, gradually come out of the shape or the movement that is causing you pain. And if it's possible, you can rest on the side, on your belly, or on your back, depending on whether that causes you pain, right? Come and find a position that gives you comfort and just stay for a few breaths first. Take the time to recuperate, right? This is the first and the most important point of today's session, of today's sharing. And I hope you remember this. No pain, and start to distinguish between the kinds of pain that you're feeling as and when you are moving, and know what kind of pain, right, aching, which is okay, versus the pain, sharp shooting pain, pinching pain, for example, in your back, if you do back bends, all right, that would be things you want to avoid. Okay, so let's come on to the second point that I'd like to share with you today. So the next thing would be, if you are practicing, for example, yoga, or any kind of movement, right, when you're just starting out. Let's say you're doing a movement like Warrior 2, and I'll show you. Right. So Warrior 2 has the front leg, right, externally rotated. So you draw and pull that leg, and we move the two legs apart. Right. The front knee of your leg that's in front is bent. Your body is facing sideways, right? And it's kind of in line with your back foot. Right, so many people here, what's happening, you may feel that, oh, my right knee, right, according to the instructor or according to whatever is shown, needs to be at a right angle, right, 90 degrees here. And you might hear this cue also by some instructors. But what is important is everybody's body is different. So how your legs have formed inside, so in anatomy, your legs are called your femurs, right? How they're formed inside your hip sockets affects, right, how much you can externally rotate and how much you can abduct, which means to move your legs away or spread your legs away from each other. And naturally, for example, some of my clients, for them, Warrior 2 might be here. And that's it. They simply cannot, and it's not safe for them to spread their legs so far apart. For some of the others, for example, they may easily spread and open their legs super wide with no pressure in the pelvis, no pressure in your knee, no pressure in your ankle, right? So this comes to my second point. And the second point, right, is ahimsa. And within yoga, ahimsa is the first of the yamas, and what it means is kindness or compassion, right? Compassion for yourself and also compassion for others. But how do we begin to cultivate that? Firstly, by accepting how your body is right now, right? So another thing I would like to share with you with regards to this and the approach to practicing any movement, all right, whether it is yoga, whether it is functional training, whether it is aerobics, is to start to ask this question: when you do a pose, what is the purpose of the pose? What is the goal, and what are you trying to achieve? Which sets of muscles, which part of your body are you exercising, and for what purpose? For example, let's go back to the example with the contraction of the biceps, right? So if we lift weights like this, what we're doing is we're strengthening the bicep muscle here, right? And this will, of course, over time, as you do this, you will create a very nice toned shape and you will have toned arms, right? But the main goal is to strengthen and contract this muscle. The same thing applies to every single movement. For example, if you are doing squats, what is the goal of the movement? You want to strengthen your quadricep muscles, right? So when you do this, for example, this movement, just like in chair pose, for example, if you're coming into squats, right, you're keeping your legs roughly hip distance apart or maybe even wider, and then you're sitting your butt back as you engage everything low. And this is very similar to the pose that we do in yoga, which is chair pose or Utkatasana. So in this pose, notice which muscles you should be feeling and are feeling. And as long as you feel those muscles, you know the intention of the pose and the function and the purpose of the pose. It doesn't matter so much whether you look exactly like how the instructor is doing it, because everybody's body will be different, right? Some of us have hips that are a little bit more narrow, some of us have wider hips, some of us can turn our legs out a lot, some of us has more internally rotated legs, and this will affect how you look like from the outside. So instead of trying to achieve the exact same look of the pose or the movement from the outside, start to cultivate the sensation and the ability to feel the pose from inside, and notice which of your muscles, which of your body parts are being engaged in every single movement, right? And this really ties in with ahimsa or compassion for yourself. Maybe, for example, your instructor in chair pose right, sits really low, right, in chair pose. They sit all the way, and you can see their buttocks are like all the way towards the back. But for you, it's just not possible. For you, you're already feeling like your quads here, right, they're super tight, and for you, here is your chair pose, right, and that is enough, and you feel your quads burning. You feel even the muscles that wrap around the front of your calves, they are strongly engaged. Then that's fine. You stay there. You don't need to go down even further. You find your variation or your shape that matches your body where you are now. And perhaps over time with practice, maybe you go deeper, maybe you don't. There are some limitations in each and every person's body, right? So this is the second point I would like to share with you. Please feel free to adjust, modify your practice as needed, right? You don't have to do every single movement that is on the video as per the instructor or as per whatever you're following, and you don't have to look exactly the same. It is not the shape that matters. It is what the purpose of the shape is for your body and for the benefits that truly matter, right? Okay, so let's get on to the last point for today that I'd like to share with you. Another thing is that I often get comments from my students or my clients, and sometimes because I'm often posting also replies on various forums when people ask about, you know, practicing yoga, how often you should practice, how fast you can see results, right? So one of the 10 yamas and niyamas, which are observances or, you know, guidelines to how one should live his or her life, is tapas. And tapas can be understood as being disciplined. It is austerity. It is showing up when things get difficult. So in another way, what I'm trying to say is that you have to practice, especially if you are new to a certain movement, a certain practice, right? If your goal is to achieve a pose, let's say you want to do a deep back bend, you won't get it on the first day. In order to achieve the deep back bend, you have to do a series of various movements to prepare yourself for the final pose, right? In many of the different disciplines, let's say we look at basketball, we look at playing golf and all of that. Many of these sports people, they do lots of different training in order to achieve the final goal of whatever it is that they want to do. Basketballers, they do lots of drills so that they can actually play the game effectively and efficiently. It's a little bit funny that for yoga, right, doing the pose itself is the goal, right? For especially now on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, you might see people in very deep back bends or in doing handstands easily or headstand. But actually a lot of preparation has to go into every single of these movements because many of them are complex. For example, headstand, right? If you are going to stand on your head and you're doing the traditional variation of headstand, it requires integration of the shoulders. So you're going to interlace the fingers behind your head and continue to plug your shoulders back in towards your shoulder girdle and push actively using your elbows up against the surface that your head and your arms are on. And that's not just it. Your core needs to be strongly engaged, not just the back muscles, but also the front, your abdominal muscles, and your legs, in order to be able to lift up into headstand, need to be engaging and squeezing towards the midline. So it's a very, very complex movement. And so there are many ways to prepare for this movement, and you need to be disciplined. And you shouldn't probably expect already to be able to do it on the first day. If you can, that's probably because you already did many other things in the past. Perhaps you were a sports person, you did gymnastics, you did various forms of training. This is why also another tip would be, it is highly recommended, and I would suggest it for myself as well, that you don't just stick to one single movement modality. So there's lots of synergy between maybe say practicing yoga and rock climbing, running and yoga, or even for example CrossFit and yoga. So finding that balance of strength, mobility, flexibility, so that you can integrate all of this in order to achieve whatever you want to achieve, to live without pain, to be able to access things, to just live a comfortable life and be really in your body and enjoying living in your body. So having a mirror and a hybrid of different types of movement modalities that nourish your body and help you to take your body through different ways of moving that you're not used to, right? That is really actually very helpful for you, right? Another thing I wanted to mention is when your body is taken in to a movement that it is not used to, you're actually training your brain by forming new connections, right, with your neurons, right? The dendrites start to connect and there are new neural pathways that are actually being formed. And this is great for, you know, for example, maintaining good, healthy bodily functions. It is good for aging. It actually reduces your rate of degeneration of your cells. So, and forming new neural connections is always great. So if, for example, you've always been doing a single movement modality, let's say you love power yoga, right, and you're looking at maybe trying something different, look for something that's complementary, you know, something that's quite different from your usual practice, and this will challenge you, not just your body but also your mind, right, and able to enable it to be able to fully enhance whatever practice and your experience of your body-mind connection, right? So I think this is all I have to share today, right? Hello Dew, hi Twinkle, hello. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know. You know, you can pop your questions in the comment box. So just to recap the three main points I mentioned. First one, no pain, no pain, right? Avoid sharp shooting pain, pinching pain at all costs. Learn to distinguish the difference between pain and ache. Ache is okay and is normal when you exercise. When you do any form of movement, especially if you start to load your body in a way it is not used to, you will naturally feel ache afterwards. Alright, you can just try this today. If you don't do, like for example, plank, or you don't do weightlifting and you want to try do a couple of sets today, and tomorrow you will feel the ache in the body of the muscle, right? So remember that sharp shooting pain when it comes to your joints, especially if you have knee pain, if you have back pain, avoid loading just a specific area. You want to engage the full area of your body. So example, in back bends, if you're doing a cobra, which is an extension of the spine, you want to engage also the core, which is around the front, and the muscles in your legs to help to wrap around and protect your body. Okay, so that's the first point. No pain, no pain. Please avoid sharp shooting pain. The second point is ahimsa, which is to be kind to yourself. Please hold your body with compassion, right? And if anything, please look to cultivate the sense or the perspective that and of curiosity to ask yourself, when I do this, what is the purpose of this really? You know, if I want to do squats, or if I do this specific movement, what am I training? Am I training the leg muscle, the front of the leg, the side of the leg, my glute muscles which wrap around my buttocks, or is it my arm or my shoulder or my torso, right? This is very important, and I often encourage my students all the time. I ask them, so what are you feeling in this pose? Not how you are feeling, you know, I'm feeling fine, no, what you are feeling. Is it a contraction? Is it a dull sensation? Start to ask yourself these questions and feel what is like inside your body, instead of focusing on what it looks like from outside. Well, as you start to develop this intelligence, we call this interoception, this ability to sense the pain, the temperature of your body, the different sensory feedback that your body is sending you, you will become more and more intelligent. You will be able to avoid things that cause you pain. You will be able to live a pain-free life. Okay, last one, right, is of course tapas. So if possible, try not to expect results so quickly, right? It takes a little bit of consistency for most things to actually start to show results. If you have a specific goal in mind, break it down into something more simple and work on every single thing. So for example, going back to the example I mentioned, if your goal is headstand, look at headstand. Think about what are the things that are involved for you to get into a headstand. It's a very complex pose. Same for warrior two just now, which I demonstrated, right? If you're externally rotating the legs, what is involved in warrior two? Are you working the front leg muscles? Are you going to contract your glute muscles? Are the arms just hanging out there, or are they also strong and engaged? Think and experience all these. Take time, especially if you are new to the movement, new to the shape, to explore, to find the shape and the alignment or the modification that suits your body the best. And then over time, if you want to move a little bit faster, if you want to do more repetitions, feel free to do so. But form is very, very important in whatever movement that you do, whether it is running, whether it is CrossFit, whether it is yoga, anything. Right, so take time, be consistent, and then over time you can gradually increase your load, you can increase more repetitions, so on and so forth. Right, so that's all I have for you today. Right, and as part of what I'm offering right now, I have a promotion that's running on. If you're interested to explore private yoga sessions, and you have maybe say a home yoga practice, but you would like more guidance, right, from someone who is able to give you more safety, are able to give you cues and guidance and suggestions, assistance to fine-tune your practice so that it is even better, so that you improve faster, right? I am running a promotion now. The first private yoga session is free, right? And this will be 45 minutes. This can be conducted over Zoom, right? What you would need would be either a video camera or, for example, a camera on your phone, your laptop, to be able to show you as you're practicing, and I'll be able to watch and tell you and guide you through the movements, through cues that are safe, effective, and beneficial for you. And I will explain every single movement, the function of the movement, how you are feeling. I'll give you certain tips so that you can adjust based on how and what you're feeling in your body, so that you can practice safely and avoid pain, avoid injury. This is very, very important. So there's so many resources that are out there online now, right? If you don't know how to begin to approach them safely, they could be potentially sources of trauma, they could be sources of like injury or accidents for you. So please practice safely and smoothly, and often having a instructor or a guide will be able to help you, because they know, for example, I've studied anatomy and I know the function of the movement, I know the purpose and the intention, what this pose is for, why you are doing this, and from this pose then you can advance to something more complex. Alright, if you're practicing on your own, please follow the tips that I've mentioned. And if you're interested in the promotion, check out my Facebook page. So as I mentioned, the first trial is free, and now I'm running a promotion for 5 classes, 10 classes, so on and so forth. It would be great to have you. And I hope you stay safe, I hope you practice well, and I hope that yoga or whatever movement, right, just keep it going, keep it consistent, and over time you'll start to see the benefits in your body, in your mind as well. Okay, so have a great day, great evening, great afternoon ahead, and I'll see you again soon, but probably next week around this time, and I'll schedule another video to share a little bit more on various other things that I'm doing. Right, take care.